Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are undertaking a really fascinating exploration.
We really are.
We're looking into the spiritual foundations of Buddhism, but we're trying to strip away the millennia of culture and doctrine.
Right, to get to the core.
Exactly. To focus on what the sources really emphasize, which is this highly practical, almost therapeutically oriented pathway.
That phrase, therapeutically oriented, that's the key, isn't it?
It changes everything.
It reframes the entire tradition. You see, we're not looking at some abstract philosophy. We're looking at a system designed to treat a universal human condition.
So our mission today is really to get into the mechanics of it.
Yes. Starting with the foundational reality that the Buddha identified suffering and this incredible, incredible opportunity that humans have to end it.
Okay, let's start there. Let's establish the baseline problem. The whole path starts with recognizing dukkha. We usually translate it as suffering, but that feels a little narrow.
It is. It's so much more. It's this deep dissatisfaction, it's stress, the inherent instability of life itself.
So why does the Buddha put so much emphasis on that as the universal experience?
Because the pain isn't accidental. It's, you could say, structural.
Structural.
Dukkha arises when we're constantly grasping, craving, clinging to things we know deep down are temporary.
Like relationships, youth.
Exactly. Fame, even just a momentary pleasure. We try to force permanence onto things that are inherently impermanent, and that friction, that is the source of all our psychological distress.
So the path to liberation isn't about changing the world around you.
Not at all. It's about fundamentally transforming your perception of it.
And if that's the core problem, then,
Yeah.
well, the pursuit of liberation must demand some very specific, optimal psychological conditions.
It does.
Which brings us to this nugget I found that just puts the spiritual urgency into such high relief.
I think I know where you're going with this.
The extraordinary rarity of a human birth. It sounds almost mythical, but the sources treat it as a core, practical truth.
It is the ultimate framing device for urgency. I mean, to underline just how unlikely a human rebirth is within these vast, infinite cycles of samsara.
Which is the process of death and rebirth.
Right. The Buddha used this incredibly potent metaphor. Imagine the entire planet is covered by one ocean.
Yeah.
And on that ocean, there's a single wooden yoke floating on the surface. Now imagine a blind sea turtle that only surfaces once every 100 years.
Just once every century.
The likelihood of that turtle accidentally placing its head through that single yoke, our sources say, is still greater than the likelihood of gaining a human rebirth.
Wow. I mean, if the odds are that stacked against us, is this teaching meant to inspire, like, profound gratitude or existential terror about squandering this one chance?
It's both, actually. It's meant to generate what the tradition calls spiritual urgency.
You can't be complacent.
You just can't. If this opportunity is so fleeting and so rare, we can't afford to be. And it's because humans occupy this very specific, balanced midpoint in samsara that makes awakening possible.
Tell us about that. Why is the human position so uniquely suited for this, especially when you compare it to beings in other realms? Why do blissful gods or suffering animals fail where we can succeed?
Well, it's all about balance. The sources are very clear on this. The gods or beings in heavenly realms, they're just saturated with pleasure.
Too much of a good thing.
Exactly. Their lives are long, they're enjoyable, but because there's no immediate suffering, there's no motivation. There's no impetus to seek the truth. They can't recognize dukkha.
They're spiritually complacent.
Perfectly put. And then you have the animals, the beings further down the chain.
And for them,
They're too burdened by instinct, by survival drives, by just immediate suffering. They don't have the cognitive space, the capacity for reflection, to sit down and analyze the nature of reality. It's all stimulus and response.
but humans.
Humans have both. We have the cognitive capacity to reflect on suffering and the moral sensitivity to pursue a permanent solution. We're right in that sweet spot of freedom and pressure.
So, if we are that turtle, the one with its head successfully through the yoke, having won this cosmic lottery, the moral weight becomes immediate.
It does.
The tradition really stresses that being human is an opportunity, is not a guarantee of freedom.
That's right.
We have to, as the sources say, do everything possible to use this fleeting life wisely.
Precisely. And that philosophical weight, that understanding that this chance must not be squandered, that's the engine. It's the powerful engine driving a person toward the ultimate spiritual aim, which is achieving nirvana.
And nirvana is not heaven.
No, it's the radical escape from the entire cycle of samsara itself. It's the extinction of the craving that fuels rebirth.
Okay, so if that's the destination, we need the map, the practical, precise map to get there. And this is where the genius of the Buddha really shines through. It's not abstract dogma, it's a methodical approach. The Noble Eightfold Path. Let's list them out because they really are the instruction manual for this deep dive.
Let's do it.
Number 1 is right understanding.
Then right intention.
Right speech, right action, right livelihood.
Then you have right effort, right mindfulness.
And finally, right concentration.
Now that list, if you just take it cold, it can sound like 8 separate homework assignments.
It can be a little overwhelming.
Right. So what really helps, is understanding how they function together. They're grouped into 3 essential disciplines that you cultivate sequentially and, well, simultaneously. This gives you the roadmap.
Let's break down that structure because the relationship between the steps seems essential. What's the foundation? Where do we start?
The foundation is ethical conduct, or Shila.
Ugh.
This covers right speech, right action, and right livelihood. And here's that pragmatic insight we talked about. Morality isn't just about earning some kind of cosmic brownie points. It's about minimizing internal psychological friction.
That is a fascinating way to put it. So you're saying ethical living is a prerequisite for a calm mind, not just a moral goal in itself.
Absolutely. Think about it. If a person is lying or cheating, stealing, engaged in a harmful livelihood, if they're violating their own deepest moral code, their mind is just constantly weighed down.
By guilt, dissonance.
Self-reproach. A mind that's agitated by all that conflict simply cannot settle. It can't achieve the stillness you need for meditation or deeper insight. So Sheila, it cleanses the psychological slate.
So what does right livelihood look like for someone listening to us right now? You know, we're not all ancient monks.
Right. Well, right livelihood today means avoiding professions that inherently cause harm or, profit from the suffering of others.
Like what?
The sources specifically warn against trading in weapons, poisons, intoxicants, or livestock for slaughter. A modern interpretation would extend that to anything that knowingly exploits vulnerability or promotes dishonesty.
The goal is to make sure your day job isn't creating mental static.
Exactly. The guilt and conflict that would just impede your path.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Clean up the external environment, your actions, words, your job, so your mind is free of that baseline anxiety. So once that ethical foundation, Sheila, is solid, where does the path go next?
It leads inward to the second discipline, mental cultivation, or samadhi.
Samadhi.
This is where right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration come in. This is where the mind is actively trained. It's the workout phase, so to speak.
And how does this mental training specifically lead to liberation rather than just, relaxation?
It creates the mental clarity you need to see reality without the filter of our own desires and projections.
So, right effort.
Right effort ensures we apply sustained mental energy. You're preventing unwholesome states from arising and cultivating wholesome states that are already there. And right mindfulness is that continuous moment-to-moment awareness.
Of your body, your feelings.
Mind states, mental phenomena, everything. The mind is basically watching the mind.
Yeah, concentration.
That's the result. It's the disciplined, focused state you achieve through meditation, which heightens that awareness to reveal the true nature of experience. You need a calm, laser-focused mind to actually cut through the illusion of permanence.
Which brings us to the final discipline, which is really the whole point of the exercise. Wisdom or praja.
Yes, praja.
This covers right understanding and right intention.
Mm-hmm.
So if Shila and Samadhi are the tools, is praja the resulting insight?
It is the realization itself. Wisdom emerges from the direct experiential insight you gain in meditation into those core truths of impermanence, suffering, and non-self.
And that realization breaks the fundamental illusions.
It shatters them. The ideas that things last, that grasping brings happiness, and maybe most importantly, that there's a permanent fixed I in control.
Okay. The realization of non-self is critical here. It sounds terrifying to the ordinary ego. How do the sources describe the psychological experience of this?
It's often described not as a loss, but as a profound relief.
A release.
Think about it. The ego, this concept of a fixed self, is constantly demanding a perfect script for its life. It's judging every scene, reacting to every step back.
Right.
When wisdom matures and you realize that this self is just a collection of passing physical and mental phenomena, a flow, not a substance, you stop being the main character who demands that perfect script. You become the observer of the movie. And that craving that fuels attachment just it dissolves.
That really shifts the path from being purely philosophical to something deeply practical and psychological.
It has to be.
So let's talk about the practical start. For someone listening right now, just engaging with this, where do they even begin?
The sources stress that the process begins not with some grand gesture, but with self-recognition.
Noticing.
Noticing, identifying the internal causes of your own suffering, the craving, the attachment, the ignorance. The practice is then a gradual, continuous effort to weaken the hold of those patterns. It's about retraining your habits, not erasing your personality.
And what key practices can help with that retraining besides just formal meditation? We mentioned things like metta.
Metta, or loving kindness, is absolutely essential. It fundamentally changes how you relate to the world by softening the ego's rigid boundaries.
So you actively cultivate it.
You do. It's the active cultivation of goodwill toward yourself and others, practiced systematically. Instead of reacting with aversion or judgment, you cultivate compassion. This isn't passive niceness, it's active emotional transformation.
Yeah.
You practice seeing the inherent desire for happiness in all beings, which reduces the impulse to harm or judge.
And as this ethical conduct and mental cultivation deepen, what is the ultimate shift in perception that signals you're approaching nirvana?
It's the ability to see every thought, every emotion, every sensation, not as a defining truth, not as me or mine, but simply as a passing, impersonal phenomenon.
Like shadows moving across a wall.
That's a beautiful way to put it. They're just temporary events. The profound peace of nirvana occurs when this insight fully matures, and one ceases clinging to anything at all. Not the body, not the mental identity, not even the practice itself.
It's the extinguishing of the mental fire, the total cessation of the struggle against reality.
And the result is that the entire cycle of continuous grasping that drives samsara is finally broken.
That's the core of what we've explored today.
The opportunity for this ultimate liberation, it's not in some distant temple or a future heavenly realm. It is already present within the uniquely endowed human experience. It just requires awareness, sustained effort along the Eightfold Path, and an unwavering commitment.
Which brings us back, full circle, to that startling image of the blind sea turtle on the yoke.
Human life, our sources confirm, is incredibly rare, precious, and profoundly fleeting. So if you truly internalize that metaphor, that your current life is less likely than that cosmic longshot, how would that awareness immediately shift the priority of your moral and spiritual responsibility right now, and how you choose to spend the hours and days you have remaining? That is the thought we leave with you as you navigate the rest of your week.